Welcome to Forging a Life podcast with Coach Christine Clark. Forging a Life is a Sunglow transformation production aired on Transformation Talk Radio and all your favorite podcast platforms. If you own a business, have a side hustle, desire to make the leap into self-employment, or just love human interest stories, Forging a Life podcast is for you. Christine Clark is an internationally certified transformational life coach. She is the coach for your entrepreneurial life, and these are her people. Jump into the fire with those forging success on their own terms with courage, tenacity, and resilience. These are men and women you could easily meet on the street in your own community. Gain wisdom, insight, knowledge, and inspiration each episode as these business owners get transparent with Coach Christine Clark, sharing their passions, challenges, and origin stories. This is Forging a Life.
Hello, this is Coach Christine Clark, and this is Forging a Life. Today, my guest is Miraya Berke, and Miraya is a entrepreneur. She works with Mixley. Miraya creates experiences that spark delight. Her company launched two unique experimental festivals, Dessert Goals and Rom-Com Fest. Miraya scaled both of those from the ground up, and in 3 years has produced 9 festivals gathering 30,000 plus attendees. Miraya has been featured in Forbes, Washington Post, GMA, Hollywood Reporter, and more. She is now focused on Mixley, which is everything you need to host convenient, customizable virtual events for your community. Miraya, it is a delight to have you with me. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me.
You are welcome. So give me some background, because what I know a little bit about you is that this work with Mixley is something that you've done just within the last year. You moved into that. So give us a little bit more about you and what things you did before you came to Mixley, and we'll cover Mixley later.
Sure, sounds good. Well, my passion has always been around event planning and creating experiences, and really started back in the day of my elaborate birthday parties. I would say was my beginning of liking to kind of create an idea, put all the pieces into play, and then see it happen
Okay,
physically
tell me,
in person.
pick a year and tell me what you did and how old were you?
One of my favorite and most memorable, I think, was my 10th birthday party, which was inspired by my favorite TV show at the time, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And I came up with Who Wants to Be a Tenionaire? And my dad, whose name is Roger, I made him be Roger Regis after Regis Philbin, and had my parents write 10 questions for each of my friends. And we created a whole stage area, and there was the poll the audience and the 50-50 and all of the things. And you could win up to $10. It was like the party favor if you got them all right. And so that was an early fun memory. But from birthday parties, I think then in high school, planning proms and rallies, and then in college, being involved in a lot of student organizations, planning big fundraisers and events. And then when I was looking for internships and jobs, realizing that you could have a career of planning events. And so right after I graduated from UC Berkeley, I moved to New York to work with an event planning company, and was like the dream and the nightmare, I guess. It was these like very expensive, very privileged sort of VIP experiences that I was slaving away working on. And you could just tell everyone who was there could care less about being there. It was very like press focused events that they go to things like that all the time. And so that was kind of a realization that I love event planning, but want to plan events that I would want to go to was that kind of aha, I think. And so
Can you
pivot,
describe,
yeah.
can you describe to me what the vibe or mode was in that when you recognize that's not what I want, and then what it is that resonates with you? Because I
Yeah.
think we learn so much about who we are and what really is us, sometimes from these experiences of, well, this is definitely not me. But
Yeah.
can you tell me what the feeling was?
I think so. I was like 21 years old, had just moved to New York, and I was spending most of my time in the office at that point. It was like we were working on staring at computers, designing experiences, get to go to the event, and that was the fun part. But then the event is over, we pack it up, and I'd have to go like back into the office and prepare the next one. And it was just so draining and not uplifting, even though there was like glimmers of the actual event that I enjoyed. At the end of the day, I was like not thriving based on what I was doing, and it was bringing me down more. And just realizing that I wanted I wanted more space and opportunities to be able to enjoy New York and to see friends and to do other things that I liked. And it seemed like working in an event agency was not going to be the way I could do that in New York. And so
That was your life, period.
yeah, it was just doing the work, and then the work was like being at the events wasn't even fun because you're just working at them all the time.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I think it was only really like I think like 6 months that I was at that first job that just wore me down so much and was such a realization that that was not where I wanted to be. Um, but in my glimmers of, weekends or times that I did have off, I was trying to enjoy New York and going to concerts or festivals or things that I liked, and just realize every time I was at those, I was like, this is what I want to plan. I want to plan the things that I would want to go to.
Yeah.
So I think it was actually being at those experiences that was really inspiring for me. And that's I mean, I've always just loved events, and both the planning and the going to them. And so I had sort of like a few other jobs, worked at a big conference for a little bit, and then ended up starting my own event agency that was really focused on these sort of more community centric events, and
Mhm.
got to plan things with like Airbnb and Kiva and really fun, big, happy, joyful experiences. And so I think that was where I really started thriving, was like getting to work with clients who saw eye to eye with the things that I liked to do, and the attendees of it were really grateful and happy to be there.
Mhm.
And after doing that for a few years, had this like aha idea with a friend about starting a dessert festival in New York. There,
Yeah, you had the dessert goals. Tell me about
yeah.
dessert
So that
goals.
was our first I up until that point, I had only planned events for clients, like people would hire me to plan their event, and that was the first sort of big, like, this is an idea, let's sell tickets, let's do it ourselves. So we were thinking, in New York at the time, there was like a festival for beer, a festival for vintage clothes, everything had its own festival. And we looked, and there had not yet been a dessert festival in New York in
Who
2016.
would even have thought that, right?
You would think it would be like there was a chocolate and ice cream, but not all desserts. And there's
Mhm.
so many amazing dessert shops in New York. So my friend was a designer and I was an event planner, and we're like, let's just do it and see who will come. And we booked an event venue, started reaching out to vendors, and we started promoting it, and the press just went crazy about it, and we got written up, and our tickets sold out in like minutes. And the day
Yay.
of, it was just like this line out the door, people were so happy. And at the end of it was like, felt such a, I did what I sought out to do. Like, this would be the type of event that I would want to go to. I've made these people happy, I've left this happy memory.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah,
it
who
was,
doesn't love dessert?
who doesn't love desserts? And it was supporting all small businesses that were
Right.
there. And so I think we went into it in just this sort of like, let's do this fun thing, and ended up being a business now for 5 years that I've been doing, planning these dessert festivals in New York and LA. And I've gotten to meet so many small businesses who are so passionate about what they're doing and just happy attendees who love desserts as much as I do. So that was sort of my first big festival. And then after doing that for a few years, was sort of this like, what else makes me happy besides desserts? Like I could do this in a different category.
Right.
And so romantic comedies was my other aha
Okay, so
moment.
that's rom-com.
Rom-com fest. So
Romantic comedies. Okay.
romantic comedy is my favorite film genre, and they've really started having a comeback with a lot of the Netflix rom-coms last few years. And so in 2018 I had this idea for rom-com fest, and similar with dessert goals, I googled it and there had never been a film festival devoted to romantic comedies. And similar with dessert goals, was sort of like found a venue, started reaching out to people, and just started piecing the pieces together. And similar to dessert goals, I've been very blessed. It like the press really took off around it. I think it was like the right niche at the right time and got a lot of amazing talent involved. And so yeah, it was 2019 was an awesome year. Had this first romantic comedy film festival. We had Chase Sapphire was the sponsor of Dessert Goals, was all these great things. Big plans for 2020, and then want had to like cancel everything
Right,
like within the
right.
matter of a few weeks. Was like all my income was gone, all my plans. It was pretty tough, and I think so many other event planners have gone through this similar struggle over this
Yeah.
last year.
I had a conversation with somebody at some point last year because what I was feeling was the population, was mourning that they weren't going to the events. Like
Mhm.
I am here in the Midwest in Iowa, and our huge event is the Iowa State Fair, world renowned, and we didn't have the fair.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, we are mourning that we don't get to go do these, but I hadn't heard anybody talking about all of the event planners, all of the people that is their bread and butter. They go to these festivals, they go to these events, and that's how they make their money. And I think that, I think the hospitality industry got a nod that yes, this was hard for them, but I didn't hear anybody talking about the event people. And I'm thinking
Yeah.
they're like totally out of business. And if
Wedding
you
planners,
would
all of
speak
them.
to,
Yeah.
what that was, put yourself back in there, the feeling, and just because I don't think that story has gotten out.
Yeah, I agree. I a friend that I have in New York started this like coalition of live event planners, and we had like a few calls in the early time because I think we all felt the same way that the restaurants industry was getting so much support and donations to them and all sorts of things, and there was no easy way to get grants for all these solo entrepreneurs or anything. We were definitely left out in it.
Mhm.
And I think it was just a shock and so much uncertainty because we were all looking to each other. People were looking to us. We had sponsors or clients who thought we should know the answer, I think, as to like when we would be able to go back and do these or
Right.
and it was just so unknown. Like I remember having conversations thinking like, okay, maybe we push it a few months and then it'll be fine. And it's like, well, we didn't know anything then either.
Yeah, because it
So
was
yeah,
like week by week. They say,
it,
okay, 2 weeks, and then 2 more weeks, and then okay, a
yeah.
month, and then yeah,
I remember
no,
in
no.
March, we had postponed the dessert festival to July, thinking, oh, there's no way this will be going in July. Little did we know,
Right.
but yeah, it was really hard, and I mean, I have totally pivoted my career now, and probably will for the rest of this year. I just don't know when it will feel safe to plan in-person events. I some of my colleagues I see are doing it now or have found ways of doing it and things outside or drive-in movies, things like that. And it feels so risky to put big deposits down for
Right.
things, just not knowing that I'm not in this financial situation to do it right now. So I feel like I have to wait till I would be comfortable enough to go to things to start planning them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think as things open up again, I heard somebody say they were talking about the Roaring Twenties and
Yeah.
how there was a depression and there was no alcohol, and then those things shifted, and then we had the Roaring Twenties, and they were projecting that with this whole 2020 year and the COVID, that we're setting ourselves up for the Roaring Twenties, because when things open back up, people are going to go, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that too. I hope so. I think that has made me feel better with right now kind of putting my events on the shelf. Like
Mhm.
for a while I was trying to figure out virtual versions of them or had like a subscription box, was doing different things, and I think it feels okay to know like it will come back when people are ready. And
Mhm.
I think people will be very excited to eat extravagant desserts together when they can.
Absolutely.
So it's okay
Yeah.
to kind of pause. Like it's hard to not play the comparison game on Instagram where you see others who are like thriving or pivoting really well. And
Mhm.
just to know like it can come back when it's ready too, I think has been like a lesson I've been grappling with the last months.
Yeah, the wanting to move forward, hoping it doesn't last longer. It's already lasted over a year now.
Yeah.
And yeah, being able to continue to wait it out, continue
Hmm.
to, not jump the gun. Yeah,
And I mean,
yeah.
it's been amazing how people have found ways to connect online in this last
Hmm.
year. And that has really been what's inspiring with I joined Andrew as the founder of Mixley. I joined him in August of last year. And he had already been working on Mixley in 2019, pre-COVID. So it was not set out to be this virtual event experience platform, but he had to kind of pivot it as well. And getting to talk to so many other event organizers and understand the frustrations they were having, and so many mirroring what I had gone through, and getting to really build something from the ground up together that will help solve some of these problems and get to use my brain power to like actually achieve something this year as opposed to just like sitting and waiting for the end
Right,
has been
right.
really rewarding.
Yeah, yeah. And you've used the term ground up a couple of different times. You did that with your live festivals, and I hear you say it again, working with Andrew in creating Mixley. Tell me a little bit more about what Mixley is, what it does.
Yeah. That's funny. The ground up. I didn't know that was a word or a term I had been using, but I guess so. So yeah, Andrew started Mixly, and it really began as a ticketing platform, sort of like an Eventbrite alternative. So if
Okay.
you're selling tickets or collecting RSVPs, but in a much more user friendly and streamlined and beautiful way. So I'd used Eventbrite for years for my festivals, and it's very clunky as a organizer to set up, and then when you check out as a participant or attendee, you have to have an Eventbrite account. You have to go through a bunch of these steps. So we
Hmm.
just wanted to streamline that and make it look nicer as well. And the fees are a lot lower as well. So that was sort of version one of Mixly.
Hmm.
And then when I joined, and as I mentioned, sort of talking to all these organizers, realizing that the ticketing was one piece of the problem. Now that everyone's hosting everything online, everyone ends up in a Zoom room. It's like no matter how you found out about this event, how you purchased the ticket, you enter into this like black generic box.
Right.
And as an event planner, like I used to be able to rent out a venue, you put up your signage, you brand it, you own this experience. And there wasn't anything like that online yet where organizers could really have their own event space that they own and can customize. And so we came up with this idea of virtual venue that is a Zoom alternative that you can customize and embed right onto your website.
Hmm.
And so it's a really neat, instead of entering into this Zoom waiting room that you go in, you actually go in on your own website in your coloring. You can have your links to different things. If you have like a speaker bio, if you have a Spotify playlist, all of those things that live on your website. So that's been our latest product, and we're really building out all the tools to make it really convenient and customizable for organizers all under one roof. So you have your ticketing, you can embed a calendar of upcoming events, you can message your guests, and you have this venue all in one place. And as a solo entrepreneur myself, and so many of my colleagues, we're wearing so many hats. We're like planning the events, we're marketing the events, we're
Right.
orchestrating it. So just to have one tool where you can do all of these things, as opposed to jumping between Eventbrite and MailChimp and Zoom and Canva and
Right.
all these
Yeah.
places, you can have it all in one space. So that's really the long-term goal, is creating this really streamlined workflow for fellow event planners and organizers.
So are you creating, when you contacted me, it was called virtual venue, which
Yeah.
is this hosting on your own website with your own colors, decorating it so it looks like you, it's got your branding. And then you talked about the ticket purchase piece. So are you creating a single thing that's all these put together, or are you also offering, I guess separately, offering that each of the pieces that somebody could use a piece rather than the whole thing, or not?
Yeah, you can use, so it's all under Mixly as like our umbrella. And
Okay.
you make an account that's totally free. And then when you log in, it's kind of up to you. You don't have to use all the pieces. Like some people do ticketing through their website and they really like that setup. So they don't want to move, but they wanted the virtual venue piece of it. So you could just set up a virtual venue and put that on your website. Or a lot of people are using Circle as a new community platform, circle.so, where
Mhm.
they don't need ticketing because it's kind of their set people in there, but they are embedding the virtual venue into their circle. So it's sort of like a water cooler, like clubhouse feel that people can just pop in and out of these ongoing rooms in there. So yeah, that's a great question. It's sort of a bunch of tools under one roof that you can pick and choose what you want. If you want to do everything, you can do that. You can sell tickets, message them, put it on your website, or you could just do one piece of the puzzle.
Okay. Yeah. Because when you were talking about, well, Eventbrite, and a friend of mine does yoga, and I signed up for that, and then I would have the emails, and then I would click the link in the email, and then it would take me to Eventbrite, and I'd have to, like you say, sign on,
Yeah.
and then it would take me to the event, and then I had to find the link back to the yoga session. And
Yeah.
it was like 3, 4, 5 hops, and it did drive me nuts. I
Yeah.
tell you, because it's like, I have it in my email. Why can't I just go there?
Yeah.
So
I
that piece, I understand that you've streamlined it, created something
And it
simpler,
makes
easier.
it so hard. Like you took the time to click through, but I think a lot of people just get frustrated and then they like message the host and then they're like, where's the link? I can't find the link. And
Mhm.
this poor woman is like trying to lead her yoga class, but
Right.
simultaneously on the
Yeah.
side trying to reply. So trying to
Mhm.
make it easier for both the attendee perspective and the organizer perspective.
Right. Right. Yeah. So, you and Andrew, are there other people that work with the two of you?
Yeah, we have, it's still a very small team. We have two other engineers
Mhm.
and a few other sort of like contractor consultants who are helping. So there's sort of like four full-time plus a few other part-time, but definitely a small team. And I think it's funny whenever I'm the one outreaching to people as you
Mhm.
saw, and then I replied and you're like, wow, it's a real person. Like
Right.
I every time I talk to someone, or we have a phone number that you can call that I answer, if it's like people are like so blown away by the that it's a real human. I think
Mhm.
with Eventbrite and these other big companies, you don't get that like high touch experience. So
Right.
we are here to help other small businesses as a fellow small business ourselves.
Yeah. And my personal experience, because this is how I build my business, is by personal experience, by personal contact, um, by being able to speak to people. When I get a group together, I offer them a free coaching consult, and I do a lot of networking. I do a lot of follow up, and talking to people on the phone. That's my first go-to call. And
Yeah.
and what I've noticed, like over the last, I don't know, at least 5 years, this might have been happening longer, but it used to be that the internet and social media, that you had, everybody was excited and to be able to be seen, you wanted to be on those. And then over time, it got more and more and more and more um, just full, so much noise.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to be found got harder and harder and harder. And I think at this point, the pendulum is swinging back away from the high tech and towards the touch.
Mm.
That now to what you're doing, the real phone call, the real answer when somebody calls, the real outreach with a contact with a single person is unique and very powerful now because people are wanting that.
Yeah.
They need that touch. And I think the pendulum is coming back towards that more grassroots way of building a business. I mean, I think you can still create a business online. It's going to cost you a lot of money to distinguish yourself between everybody else out there. But when it's done in person or with that high touch, then your brand is almost instantaneous
Mm-hmm.
because you're making that connection.
Yeah, I think that's a great point and a nice reminder. I mean, there's just so much competition and noise with everything, as I'm sure as a coach. Now
Mhm.
we're in this virtual event software. There's so many that are getting like hundreds of millions of dollars of fundraising and
Mhm.
getting advertisements
Right.
all day. It's hard to feel like you can compete, but you just have to kind of focus on the North Star and what you're doing and talk to one customer at a time until you get where you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So what are some of the goals? What are um, for Mixed Leaf and for you?
Yeah.
And I guess is there a culture? Is there a um, oh, why can I not think of the word? An overriding concept for the business?
Yeah. I think we've swayed around then like we don't necessarily have like one tagline or mission statement as much
There we
as
go. Mission statement.
mission
Yay!
statement as I would like, but I think the idea is just making it easier for people to gather and to host these experiences has sort of been from Andrew's mission from the beginning was wanting to create an easier way for people to like connect. I think it used to be easy to send out Facebook events or a paperless post, and the same with everything. There's all these scattered ways of doing everything, and so
Mhm.
just to make it a little simpler and easier to do that is kind of the main overarching goal. And then figuring out, we're really building it with the people that are using it. So we have some early users that we have a little group called the Mixly Squad who give us feedback and like share like, hey, this didn't work, or I really need a way to like have my members host their own events. And then are talking to them, figuring out ways to do that. So I think we're trying to build it, my new tagline, from the ground up with them. So it's not just coming from what we think might be the right way
Right.
or right thing, but what would actually be helpful for their needs. Um, so yeah, I think my goals, like since you can embed it into a website, like my big vision is like companies like Squarespace and Wix, we would be able to like partner with them as this like easy widget that you can plug into your website, because I think it just adds so much more power to this tool that you're already using
Mhm.
by being able to have these meetings and events within your website. So them, and then the circle.so that I mentioned is this community platform, and it's a pretty new platform, but a lot of their users are sort of these early adopter, tech savvy, interested people. And so we can embed virtual venue into Circle. And so now we're actually building out, the last few days I've been building out our own circle for Mixly users and trying to cultivate the community of these organizers and hosts who are using Mixly, so that they can be supporting each other. Because I've gotten to meet so many cool people these last few months, and then trying to like match make, like, hey, you should be a speaker at this event that they're
Right.
doing, or
Yeah.
we've been hosting Clubhouse talks together, and just really giving the stage and the platform for the cool people within this little Mixly community that we're growing.
So how can people find Mixly?
Yeah, so our website, it's Mixily, so it's Mixily,
Mhm.
Mixily.com. We're on Twitter and Instagram as all as Mixily Events. Um, and yeah, we have a blog.mixly.com. So I've been writing a bunch of posts with like different event tips and tricks, and just trying to bring my background from event planning into this community, into this world, and be as much of a resource and help as I can with people who are growing their events and their communities. And then my personal channels it's my full name is just Miraya Berke, Miraya Berke.
Beautiful. So if somebody is wanting to do something event-wise that they might not have done in 2020, as an event planner, what do you tell people about what's important in a virtual event, or what's important in an event, and how do you bring that to the virtual world?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. I think one thing that feels really important is just the interactiveness of it, and having it not feel like a talking head as much as possible. I think whenever I join in a meeting and realize it's like a webinar is the event, I'm
Mhm.
just like, I don't really want to be listening to this. Like, I feel like my capacity of just like watching a shared screen and someone talking is over. And so having smaller groups where you're actually talking to each other, where there's some sort of activity that you're doing, I think those are what really stands out the most. And I think having it not on Zoom also is what stands out the most, is like
Right.
whether it's in your virtual venue and it's in your own branded space, or there's a bunch of other cool startups as well, where you like icebreakers as one, where you do little one-on-one meetings with people. Like, I think every time I enter into a new space, it's like just this refreshing, like, ooh, where am I now? And so being able to spice up your venue that you're hosting
Mhm.
experiences in. And even within an event, like I went to one recently where it started in a Zoom, and then we took like a field trip somewhere else and went out into another link, I thought was really fun. And having those kind of moments, uh, yeah, I think that's the best way. And I think as things are starting to open, hybrid events is definitely the big term people are talking about. So if you
So
are
for those of
able,
us who are not tech savvy, what
yeah,
is hybrid event?
sure. So hybrid is a mix of in-person and online.
Okay.
So I think that is going to be the direction we're going to start seeing. And I think it's going to be a lot of the in-person is almost like the VIP experience. Like, you're going to
Okay.
pay more to go in person
Right.
because it's going to be smaller, more exclusive, but then the general public would be joining online.
Wow.
So I think that's what we're going to start seeing. I'm already seeing some people doing that on Mixly, and having like different ticket types. And for those, I think it's even more important too, with the online attendees, having them enter through a virtual venue or something else so it feels just as inviting. Like, I think it would feel so disappointing to be staring at a black Zoom, and then you see people in person in the in the
Right.
real
And they've
space,
got the color and the
and you're,
decorations and the
yeah,
balloons.
and you're like, what the heck? I'm in like the nosebleed seats
You're
over
right.
here. So
Yeah.
I think um planning hybrid events is going to feel like you're planning two events at once, because you have to create this experience for the in-person
Mhm.
people and just as much think about the virtual experience as well.
I wish you the best of luck, and hope to be seeing Mixley everywhere. Anything that you want to share, touch on before we would wrap this up?
So we're really just trying to support small businesses. So like event planners and community organizers are sort of the spaces that we're in. But I know you are a coach and work with all sorts of different people. And we have a lot of coaches who use Mixly also. Like anything that you could be doing on Zoom, you could do in a virtual venue room. And it's really more of an ongoing space or like a room that you can create. So as opposed to a meeting on Zoom that is like a time block and the link disappears, is like a Mixly space. You could have like, you know, your meeting room, you could have your conference room, you could have your birthday party room, and you can deck them out and use them for different tools and different times. So whether you are, you know, online dating or making like wine nights with friends or book clubs, you could use it for those personal gatherings as well. So it doesn't just have to be for event planners.
Cool. Wonderful. All right. Miraya, this has been fantastic. Love talking with entrepreneurs. I really love having the opportunity to talk with you as an event planner who went through that and everything just disappearing. That's an important story that we need to share. We need to, because I think you guys were not seen. I think you guys are not seen. And cool to be on the cutting edge of something new and fresh. You and Andrew and your other engineers, and look forward to, yeah, listening and having other people talk about you and know that your guys are expanding and growing. So
Thank you so much.
yeah, thank you. This is Coach Christine Clark. This is Forging a Life. My guest today has been Miraya Berke. She works with Mixly, and you can find them at, tell me, Miraya?
Mixly.com.
Mixly.com. Thank you.